Today, I am ready to talk about something, and whenever it's going to be on the screen, we'll begin. I don't know, it helps me to have little visuals when I speak. It kind of prompts me. So, there it is. So, the topic is, what do you think? You got to be blind, right? So the topic is trust. And when I was early in my 20s, I've realized that I'm not letting God control my life 100%. Now, a few weeks ago, most of you were there. At the Teen Sabbath School, we talked about this. What was holding us back? What was the number one reason that young people answered? Everybody's here is young. What was holding you back? Remember, guys and girls, what did we talk about? What was the number one reason why you said you cannot let God control 100% of your life? You trust God, but there's just a little percentage that you're like, whoa, 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 God, hold off on that. What was it? Who remembers? Because that was my reason. I was afraid that if I'm going to let God in 100% in my life, I'm not going to have enough fun. Do you guys remember? Fun was the number one reason we all thought that if we trust God 100% of our life, it's just going to be boring life. And I hope, because I've learned in my life that's a misconception, that it's not true. And I hope that you realize it a lot sooner than I did. In their hearts, humans plan their course, but their Lord establishes their steps. Have you noticed that God has a sense of humor? Please raise your hand if you've noticed that God has a sense of humor. Yes, He does. Thank you. Now, in 1999, I've made a decision I'm never going to live in a state that has any chance of a tornado. In 1999, it was a really bad year for the United States. There were a lot of deadly tornadoes. Was any of you born that year, by the way? But in 1999, I made a decision. I'm never moving anywhere in the States where there's any chance of a tornado. Can you name 3 that I have lived so far? Anybody remember? Where have I lived so far? Texas, Oregon. Texas. Does Texas have a chance of tornadoes? Oh, yeah. So, Oklahoma, that is like one of the big states. And Missouri here. So, guess what? God was thinking, okay, little girl, sure, you make your decisions, you make your plans. How deeply do we trust God? Do you trust God to lead you to a place that you know you're afraid of? That you are just terrified of moving? I was afraid of moving to Texas in 2017 because I literally was afraid of tornadoes. That is one disaster that I know you cannot outrun, outclimb. So for me, that is pretty scary. But I trusted God to lead me to what I needed to go. Ooh, do you guys, okay, who likes cars? I like cars. When this car came out, I told myself, I'm never driving this car. I'm never driving this grandma-style car because I wanted a sporty car. Guess what? Starting 2004 till 2017, what I drove, this grandma car. I love this car. It was like it's a heartwarming car that was hard for me to let go. God has a sense of humor. You know why? This car handles pretty well 110 miles per hour on a freeway, changing lanes. I'm telling you. This car actually is very good at racing other sporty BMW cars and winning. This car is very, very stable in snowstorms. So do you trust God to choose a car for you? Raise your hand if you would ever trust God to choose a car. Katushka, thank you so much. You're the only one. Because after my example, you're like, oh, no way am I letting God trust with the choice of this car. Because I know it's not cool looking at all. I never liked how it looked. But you know what? It brought me a lot of blessings in my life. This car took me to so many fun places. My car was full of friends every Saturday, every weekend, and we had a lot of fun. So please, ask yourself, do you trust God to even choose a car for you? For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Do you trust God with your future? Can you raise your hand if you truly, truly trust God with your future? Amen. Thank you. I'm glad. Because do we truly trust God with our prosperity? Sometimes we get really sidetracked with, am I gonna make enough money if I choose this career? Think about that. Do you truly trust God with your prosperity? Do you recognize this guy? Did I mention God has a sense of humor in my life? I've mentioned that, right? Guess what? I mentioned something about to God saying, oh, I cannot date guys like Dennis. He's so serious. Do you know why? Guess what? And my friend was asking me like, hey, he's such a great guy. Why don't you go? I'm like, are you kidding me? This guy is so serious. Before he started dating anyone, he prayed and he made a list of what type of wife he would like. And I'm like, girl, this is before he dated anybody. And I was like, no, I cannot date this guy. Do you trust God with your dating life? Who trusts God with your dating life? Boy, fewer hands are going up on this one. Let me tell you, trust God with your love life. I am so blessed. I thank God every day for this gift of this man because he truly is my half, my other half that I cannot imagine life without. So God has a sense of humor because he really loves when you talk to him, but he loves to lead you to wonderful, happy places when you give him 100% of your life. And now, let's read this one. But blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. Amen. Do you trust the Lord with the unknown? Or do you secretly have a backup plan? I will not deny this. I do have always, this is a human nature that sometimes we're like, okay, God, you got this, but you're thinking, I think I might have something as a backup, you know? So right now, I want you to come up here and to come up here with somebody who you trust. Okay? I need pairs. This is an activity on how much you trust someone. Come on. I know there's somebody out there. Brave souls, come up. Come on. You have to be in a pair. Okay, who trusts? Come on stage, please. So you all, the pair is gonna not hold hands, stick next to each other. The pair is gonna stand in front. Can you stand перед папой? Встань? Можешь перед папой? Да, молодец. Yes, please. Okay, one pair faces up front, and your partner stands behind you. Come on. Who do you trust? This is a very trusting activity, by the way, just so you know. I will be honest with you. I failed this activity once. I couldn't do it. You have to come up with a partner. Who's your partner? Oh, somebody needs a partner. Alex, I can be, no. Nick? Nick, come, you can be his partner. Allison, do you want to come up with Alex? No? Okay, now this activity involves this. I was not good at this at your age. I failed at it. But this, do you trust the partner behind you with your life? You're going to be falling back without bending your knees. So you're going free fall this way, okay? Now, partners behind you. Partners behind. This is no joke. This is no joke. This is true trust, okay? Do not fail. Please do not fail. You ready? I'm going to do this on, once I count to 3, the front people have to fall back. No, you do not hold hands like that. No. I thought it was only one was good. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Good. Good. Thank you so much. Was it scary? Okay, the front people, was it a little difficult? Was it difficult? A little bit. Was it scary to fall back into unknown? So this is what the people, okay, if you really want to try this at home, you should try it with somebody who you trust. Those of you who did not come out. When you are free falling to the back, there's a little second of fear of the unknown. There's the little second of what if? And that is what you have to ask yourself this question. Do you trust God with that little what if? Can you put 100% in God's hands? Do you all recognize what this is? It's in Europe somewhere. Do you trust God when He goes outside your plans? I went on a little trip. This is Cologne, Germany. This is their dome of Cologne, or this is Cathedral in Köln. It's the same thing, just different languages. I recently took a trip. Most of you know this. Some of you know how I complained about it because it was completely not planned by me. This was my this was the most recent experience that I had with God into trust. This trip had a lot of why it should not happen. This trip was not good for us financially. This trip was not good for us time-wise. For me, this trip had a lot of why it's not a good time right now. But then every time I would pray, I felt peaceful nudge that it should happen. And I truly felt that God was my partner on this trip, that He was with me. Because when I got there, I saw that my friend truly needed help. She needed my help with her wedding. It was a very economical wedding. It was very hands-on. And she was going through a stressful time in her life. She just recently switched jobs. She completely went from one company to doing one thing. She went to a different company doing something else. And she couldn't take time off because she just started. She only could take like a little time off for her wedding. And so it was hard. It was hard for her. And I felt that I was like, wow, God, you really blessed me because I can bless somebody else. I can help somebody else. Now, I also haven't seen my mom's side of the family for 7 years since she passed away, even more. And it was so good to connect with them. I was close with them. we still talk to each other. But we haven't seen each other in person for 7 years. And it was a wonderful time for me to connect with my relatives. And guess what? The cherry on the cake was the trip back. I was flying with somebody who was leaving Ukraine. She doesn't speak any English or any German. She only spoke Russian or Ukrainian. And she is a wonderful, wonderful elderly woman who was not comfortable traveling to US without somebody helping her through this. So she got on a bus in Ukraine, and she had a straight shot to Düsseldorf, where we met her. And from Düsseldorf, we flew here to United States. And God was with us throughout the whole trip. You're like, okay, well, what do you mean? You had to change planes. Yes, we had to change planes. And me with a US citizen passport, that's not an issue. But once we landed in Dallas, and I saw the line for the passport control line. When you fly internationally, you all know this. You have to go through some, passport control. And then once you're a citizen, you're like, okay, have a good day. Bye-bye. But with her, it was different. By the time we got to this guy, he looks at her passport. He looks at her documents. He takes us to a different room. And I realized we only have 1 hour and a half before our next flight. And for that next flight, we need to find our luggage, pick it up, check it back in, and go through security line again. Let me tell you, God was with us, because there were people sitting there before us, and we were the first people in, and we were the first people out. This happened. You know what? Sometimes I'll tell you this thing. Don't look at the clock, because you will have no faith if you look at the clock. And I refused. I refused to look at the clock. Once this gentleman took her fingerprints, took her picture, he's like, go. We were running. We were running through the half of the airport in Dallas, because one security line, it was huge, it was insane. I knew we were going to be there for 1.5 hours minimum. And we're running, and I'm asking this coworker running, and I said, I need a shorter security line. She says, run further down. There's a shorter one. We run to it. We stand there. We're trying to find somebody to let them know that our boarding is probably already happening. But no workers. We stand in line. Of course, we're fidgeting. We're praying. We go through the security. We grab our stuff. We're not even putting coats on, because, in Germany it was cold. Like, we're not even putting coats on. She doesn't even have time to zip up her boot. We're running. We're getting to the little metro rail in Dallas, because we have to again go to a different terminal. We're on the terminal, and I'm like to this security, he was a security too. He was a security guy who kind of drives around people. I'm like, do not tell me what time it is. Just tell me, to the left do I run, or to the right do I run when I get off this little rail car? He's like, you run to the left. And he's looking at me. He's like, what time is your flight? He's looking at me, and he's giving me this, face. I'm like, do not tell me the time. We ran to the door. We ran to our flight. The door is closed. There's nobody else. We're banging on the door. We're punching numbers next to that door. Nobody's answering. I'm running next to the gate person and saying, please, can you radio somebody? I see the plane. It hasn't left. We just need to get on that plane. Can you please radio somebody? He's looking at me like, lady, I have nothing to do with that plane. I am running to this other, I don't know who he was, like a flight attendant or something. I'm like, can you please get somebody? Can you radio somebody to open the door? And he's looking again at me. He's like, no, sorry, can't help you with anything. We're praying. Lady comes back up the ramp. She opens the door. We're like, please tell us the door hasn't opened to the plane, because once they close the door to the plane, they will not open it. She's like, no, you have seconds. I throw our tickets at her, and we run. We run down the ramp. It was really funny. We were huffing and puffing. We were completely red. We, of course, have jackets. You imagine, like, everything, with us, and we made it. We made it in seconds, and this was another way that God was with us, and God knew that we needed Him, and He answered our prayers. And sometimes when you have a little unbelief, pray about that. Pray saying, God, help my unbelief. I love this next text. Experience for yourselves that the Lord is good. Happy and healthy are those who trust in Him. Happy and healthy are those who trust in Him. Trust in Him completely. Honor the Lord, you His spiritually healthy people. What He's talking about? You spiritually healthy people. For those who abide by His methods have everything they need. Do you trust God with absolutely every aspect of your life? Do you trust Him to make you happy, to make you healthy? I'm going to show you a picture here. This picture shows you that God has provided everything for my need in this picture. What do you see? What are your thoughts when you see this picture? I'm going to pick on you, so please look at this picture. What are your first impression of this picture? Just shout the words for me. Like, what are you thinking? Vacation. Water. Dennis is going to, you know what? That was a tricky one. No. I would not have fallen that far. What else? Swim. What else do you see? A waterfall. What are your thoughts? Like, when you look at this, can you imagine yourself in this place? What would be your thoughts? It's beautiful. You know, this is my happy place. This is my peaceful, beautiful, wonderfully created place. This waterfall is in Oregon. Actually, no, I think it's on the Washington State across the Columbia River. But this waterfall is not very popular. You know why? It is hard to get to, yes. If you want to get to where Dennis is at, you have to slide down on it's like a little cliff holding onto a rope. And the hike is not easy. So not a lot of people, it's definitely not accessible for people who have any disabilities. It is not an easy place to get to, but it is my favorite place to be when I'm looking for peace, when I want to be surrounded by beauty and power and love. Because you know that waterfall, it may look small, but there's so much power in that. We appreciate something a lot more if we work hard at it. Gentlemen, have you ever fixed a car? Have you ever worked on a car that you then absolutely love just because you put so much of your energy into it, right? You loved it because you, I would say, babied it, right? Because you spent so much time with it, fixing it, loving it. Now, do we trust God to form us beautifully and powerfully and wonderfully? Because it takes a little bit of hard work for us to become wonderful and beautiful on the inside and outside. So, for the God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-respect. Now, do you trust God with your weaknesses that you do not want to give up? I love this verse because it says God gives us a spirit of what? Fear? No, He gives us a spirit of power. I want you to think about, do you trust God with your weakness of staying up late at night, surfing the net? Do you tell God, oh, hold on, God, close your eyes for a second here. I'm going to look at something. Do you trust God seeing what you see? Do you trust God with your lazy? Do you trust God with choosing what you watch, what you listen to? Or, oh, you know what? Guess what? When I told you I had fun, I would go to movie theaters with the youth, and I would take my sisters with me, and I would make them sit between me. Do you know why? So I can easily close their eyes. And then I will yell at their friends too, like, close your eyes now. You can't watch this. Is this how you also trust God with what you're watching, what you're listening, what you're surfing? I know nobody's a saint, you know? Sometimes I'm like, oh, why did I even do this? I have made many mistakes in that, I know. But I hope we trust God. Even when we fall down, we still trust Him to help us in our choices. Blessed is the man who makes the Lord his trust and does not respect the proud, nor such as turn aside to lies. Do you know what this text tells me? I need to make Lord my trust, not somebody else. Not somebody who can lead me to lies. Do you trust God with your friends? Can you raise your hand if you have ever prayed to God for the choice of your friends? Thank you. Because you know what? These people, they are one of the probably other most influenced people in our lives. Do you trust God to have fun with your friends without guilt or shame? And I think that's kind of really, really important, because do we trust God to have fun with us? I love this next verse. The Lord your God in your midst, the mighty one, will save. He will rejoice over you with gladness. He will quiet you with his love. He will rejoice over you with singing. Now, this word rejoice, are you bored when you're rejoicing? Are you bored? Do we associate boring equals God? Do we have this sometimes misconception that if we follow God, we're going to be bored? But I love this text because it tells us what? God is rejoicing with us, for us. So God is fun. He wants to have fun with us. And I hope that He will lead you and all of us to have fun together with Him. Okay? I would like you to bow your heads, and before we have special music, I would like us to pray. Heavenly Father, help us to trust you 100%, to rejoice with you, to have fun with you. Guide us in our lives. Amen.